Afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Monday, May 29, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We're having a Time for Change call this Wednesday night. We're going to cover a lot of deep areas on the show and what's behind the show and what's underneath it all across the board. When you contemplate or meditate on the fact that the ordinary mind always throws the responsibility on somebody. It is always the other who is making you suffer. Your wife is making you suffer. Your husband is making you suffer. Your parents are making you suffer. Your children are making you suffer. Or the financial system of the society, capitalism, communism, fascism, the prevalent political ideology, the social structure of the fate, karma, God, you name it. People have millions of ways to shirk responsibility. But the moment you say somebody else, XYZ, is making you suffer, then you cannot do anything to change it. What can you do? When society changes and communism comes and there is a classless world, then everybody will be happy. Before that, it is not possible. How can you be happy in a society which is poor? And how can you be happy in a society which is dominated by the capitalists? How can you be happy with a society which is bureaucratic? How can you be happy with a society which does not allow you freedom? Excuses and excuses and excuses. Excuses just to avoid one single insight. Some of us are getting to the point where we know that, such as I am responsible for myself, nobody else is responsible for me. It is absolutely and utterly my responsibility. Whatever I am by my own creation. Once this insight settles, I am responsible for my life, for all my suffering, for my pain, for all that has happened to me and is happening to me. I have chosen it this way. These are the seeds that I sowed, and now I am reaping the crop. I am responsible. Once this insight becomes a natural understanding in you, then everything else is simple. Then life starts taking a new turn, starts moving into a new dimension. That dimension is conversation, revolution, mutation. Because once I know I'm responsible, I also know that I can drop at any moment I decide to. Nobody can prevent me from dropping it. Can anybody prevent you from dropping your misery? From transforming your misery into bliss? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Even if you are in a jail, chained in prison, nobody can imprison you. Your soul still remains free. Of course, you have a very limited situation, but even in the limited situation, you can sing a song. You can either cry tears of helplessness, or you can sing a song. Even with chains on your feet, you can dance. Then even the sound of the chains will have a melody to it. Now that nobody is responsible for your misery except you, if the misery is all your own doing, then what is left? Be grateful for everyone, because everybody is creating a space for you to be transformed. Even those who think they are obstructing you, even those who think are enemies, even though those you think are enemies, your friends, your enemies, you good people and bad people, favorable circumstances, unfavorable circumstances. Altogether, they're creating the context in which you can be transformed and become enlightened one, Buddha. Be grateful to all. to those who have helped, to those who have hindered, to those who have been indifferent. Be grateful to all, because all together they are creating the context in which Buddhas are born, in which you can become a Buddha. To be totally free of desire will make you dead. You will no longer be alive. That's what has been taught. Be desireless. But what can you do? You can go on cutting desires, and the more desires are cut, the poorer your life becomes. If all desires are destroyed, then you have committed suicide, spiritual suicide. No, desire is the energy of life. Desire is life. Then what do I mean when I say be free of desire? The second is my meaning to be free, totally free, to have or not to have desire. Desire should not be an obsession. That is the meaning you should be capable. For example, you see somebody's beautiful house, newly built, and the desire arises in you to have such a house. Now, are you free to have this desire or not? If you are free, I will say you are desireless. If you say I am not free, this desire persists. Even if I want to drop it, I cannot drop it. It haunts me. I see dreams of that house. I think about it. I'm afraid to go on the road because that house creates jealousy in me. That house creates disturbance in me. If you say I am not capable of either having or not having the desire, then you are not in a healthy shape. Then desires are your master. You are a victim. You will suffer much because there are millions of things going on around, and if so many desires take possession of you, you will be torn apart. That's how it is happening. Somebody has become the prime minister. Now you want to become the prime minister. Somebody has become very rich. Now you want to become very rich. Somebody has become a famous writer. Now you want to become a famous writer. And somebody is something else. And somebody is something else. All around there are millions of people doing millions of things. And from every nook and corner, a desire arises and jumps on you and takes possession of you. And you are not capable of saying yes or no. You will go mad. That's how the whole of humanity is mad. All those desires are pulling you into so many directions. You have become fragmentary because many desires have possessed parts of your being. And those desires are contradictory too. Then it is not only that you are fragmentary, you become a contradiction. One part of you wants to become very rich. Another part of you wants to become a poet. Now, this is difficult. It is very difficult to become rich and remain a poet. A poet cannot be that cruel. It will be very difficult for him to become rich. Money is not poetry. Money is blood. Money is exploitation. A poet worth the name cannot exploit. And a poet worth the name will have some vision of beauty. He cannot be so ugly himself as to deprive so many people just for his desire to hoard money. Now, you want to become a politician and you also want to meditate. You want to become a meditator too. This is not possible. Politicians cannot be religious. They can pretend to be religious, but they cannot be religious. How can a politician be religious? Religion means non-ambitiousness, and politics is nothing but pure ambition. Religiousness means I am happy as I am. Politics means I will be happy only when I am at the top. I am not happy as I am. I have to run and rush, and I will destroy if it is needed. If by right means, okay. If not, then by wrong means. But I have to be at the top. I have to prove myself. A politician naturally suffers from an inferiority complex. A religious man has no complex, inferiority or superiority. Politicians pretend to be religious because that pays in politics. To be religious means to be non-ambitious, to have no ambitions of being somewhere else, somebody else, to be here now. Now, if you have these two ideas together, that you want to be a politician, and you also want to be a meditator, you will be in difficulty. You will drive yourself crazy. If you are honest, you will go mad. If you are dishonest, then you will not go mad. You will become a hypocrite. That's what your politicians are. I'm not saying that all those who are in religion are not politicians. Out of 100, there are also 29 who are politicians. They are in a different kind of politics, the religious politics. They have their hierarchy, and the priest wants to become the pope. Again, it is politics. Or the sinner wants to become the saint. Again, it is politics. Again, it is inferiority complex. Again, once you have started doing something holy, religious, saintly, you will carry around that ego of holier than thou. Then you will have a condemnation of others in your eyes. Then everybody is doomed, and only you are going to be saved. Then you can look at others with pity. These people are going to hell. This is, again, politics. A really religious man knows no ego. He's not even humble. Remember, he is so egoless, he is not even humble. Humbleness is also a pretension of ego. The humble person is also trying to be humble and trying to prove that I am humble. Or may even have ideas deep inside his heart that I am the most humble man in the world. Again, it is the ego. Many desires will take possession of you. Many will be contradictory, and you will be pulled apart. And you will start falling into pieces. You will lose integrity. You will no longer be an individual. You ask, what is desireless? Now, these are the two things you know, desirelessness. Then you have to cut your life completely. Then everything has to be cut. Then you become a Jaina monk. Just an empty shell, utterly discontented with everything, with yourself, uncreated, no celebration, no flowers ever bloom. Or you know desirefulness, that you become torn apart. Both are ugly states. The right thing to do is to be so totally free from desire that you can choose, that you are always able to choose, to have or not to have. Then you are really free. And then you will have both the creativity, the celebration, and the joy of desires, and the silence, and the peace, and the calmness of desirelessness. Now you may ask, how can I distinguish between enlightened self-love and egotistical pride? You teach yourself self-love, or you're taught it. But remember, self-love does not mean egotistical pride, not at all. In fact, it means just the opposite. The person who loves himself finds there is no self in him. Love always melts the self. That is one of the alchemical secrets to be learned, understood, and experienced. Love always melts the self. Whenever you love, the self disappears. You love a woman, and at least in the few moments when there is real love for the woman, there is no self in you, no ego. The ego and love cannot exist together. They are like light and darkness. When light comes, darkness disappears. If you love yourself, you will be surprised. Self-love means the self disappears. In self-love, there is no self ever found. That is the paradox. Self-love is utterly selfless. It is not selfish, because whenever there is light, there is no darkness. And whenever there is love, there is no self. Love melts the frozen self. The self is like an ice cube. Love is like the morning sun, the warmth of love, and the self starts melting. The more you love yourself, the less you will find of the self in you. And then it becomes a great meditation, a great leap into existence. And you know it. You may not know it as far as self-love is concerned, because you have not loved yourself, but you have loved other people. Glimpses of it must have happened to you. There must have been rare moments when for a moment suddenly you were not there and only love was there. Only love, energy flowing from no center, from nowhere to nowhere. When two lovers are sitting together, there are two nothingnesses sitting together, two zeros sitting together. And that is the beauty of love, that it makes you utterly empty of the self. Remember again, just the other day I was saying empty yourself of hugs, in kisses, in love, in embraces. Empty yourself. Pour yourself into love, so that in your inner world, space is created. Because godliness can enter only when there is space in you to contain it. Godliness can enter only when there is space in you to contain it. And great space will be needed, because you are inviting the greatest guests. You are inviting the whole of existence into you. You will need infinite nothingness. And you, in you, and love is the best way to become nothing. So remember, egotistical pride is never love for oneself. Egotistical pride is just for the opposite. The person who has not been able to love himself becomes egotistic. Egotistical pride is what psychoanalysts call the narcissistic pattern of life. Narcissism. You must have heard the parable of Narcissus. Narcissus, he had fallen in love with himself. Looking into a silent pool of water, he fell in love with his own reflection. Now see the difference. The man who loves himself does not love his reflection. He simply loves himself. No mirror is needed. He knows himself from inside. Don't you know yourself that you are? Do you need proof that you are? Do you need a mirror to prove that you exist? If there were no mirror, would you become suspicious of your existence? Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection, not with himself. That is not true self-love. He fell in love with the reflection, and the reflection is the other. He had become two. He had become divided. Narcissus was split. He was in a kind of schizophrenia. He had become two, the lover and the love. He had become his own object of love. And that's what happens to so many people who think they're in love. When you fall in love with a woman, watch, be alert. It may be nothing but narcissism. And the woman's face and her eyes and her words may be simply functioning as a silent lake in which you are seeing your reflection. My own observation is, out of 100 loves, 99 are narcissistic. People don't love the woman that is there. They love the appreciation that the woman is giving to them, the attention that the woman is giving to them, the flattery that the woman is showing on the man. Two lovers were sitting on the sea beach. It was a full moon night. Great waves were arising in the sea. It was a full tide time. The lover said loudly to the sea, "Now roll into great waves. Roll. Rise into great waves." And great waves started rising and rolling toward the beach. And the woman came closer to the lover, hugged him, kissed him, and said, "I knew that you are a miracle. Even the ocean follows your orders." This is what goes on happening. The woman flatters the man flatters the woman. It is a mutual flattery. The woman says, "There is nobody as beautiful as you are. You are a miracle. You are the greatest that God ever made. Even Alexander the Great was nothing compared to you. And you are puffed up, and your chest doubles, and your head starts swelling. Although there is nothing but straw, but it starts swelling. And you say to the woman, 'You are the greatest creation of God. Even Cleopatra was nothing compared to you. I can't believe that God will ever be able to improve upon you. There will never again be another woman so beautiful.'" That is what you call love, right? This is what you call love. This is narcissism. The man becomes the silent pool and reflects the woman, and the woman becomes the silent pool and reflects the man. In fact, not only reflects the truth, but decorates it in 1,001 ways, makes it look more and more and more beautiful. This is what people call love. This is not. This is mutual ego satisfaction. The real love knows nothing of the ego. The real love starts first as self-love. Naturally, you have this body, this being. You are rooted in it. Enjoy it, cherish it, celebrate it. And there is no question of pride or ego because you are not comparing yourself with anybody. The ego comes only with comparison. Self-love knows no comparison. You are you. That's all. You see, we have this, it's a kind of an ongoing confusion. And people say, wow, there's a lot of misconception. You know, this, I never knew all of this. And then, of course, the ego is there, and you experience guilt. Or you believe you failed. And that's all crap. It's just that you're discovering a lot of things that you never had the opportunity to discover. You were too busy out there, running, pushing, doing, running, pushing, doing. Always having to do. And not really, truly enjoying your life. Or really not knowing what love is. You look at this civilization from a watcher's perspective, not a judgment, and you say, wow, there seems to be a lot of happy people at first when they get together, but then that seems to disappear quite quickly. Right? And it does. So you can't really put your finger on it. You say, well, you know, oh, it was their fault, and they did this, and they did that, and they did that. Which is not true. Because it is up to us, from our perspective, on how we view things. Now, if we view things from the ego mind, we're going to be blaming people for a very long time. We're going to be blaming everything outside of us for a very long time. See, and when you go within yourself and you say, why do I do that? Why does it so I point fingers here? Wasn't my fault. Their fault. They're the ones who did it. Or he or she is the one that did it. But all along, we are the ones that choose for ourselves. And I can guarantee you, any one of us, when we find ourselves in a muckety-muck, it is because we created it. Nobody created it for us. We created it. So you could literally, this is, if you really want to get finite, you could say, well, that person shot me. It's their fault. They caused my body harm. And then you could flip that and say, why were you there? Why did you decide to be there at that specific time? Had you not decided to be there at that specific time, you wouldn't have been shot. See, this is total responsibility for oneself. What it really is. And developing a deep eternal love for oneself. And as I shared with you, not the egoic love, like narcissistic people have, but love, where there is no ego. There is no reason to broadcast anything. When we talk about loving yourself, this is what we're talking about. And doesn't it make sense when the man compliments the woman compliments the man, and goes on and on and on? It becomes narcissistic. The ego is there. This is why people say, oh, I thought you loved me. Well, I don't love you anymore. Well, what happened? I don't know. I just don't love you anymore. You see, this is all based on egoic energy, not God energy. And this is why there's so much turmoil on this planet. Because nobody really knows what loving oneself is. And we all know that if we do not love ourselves, we will not love anyone else. That's just how it works. Even though you believe that you love somebody. And it's egoic. It's egoic love. It feeds the ego. So obviously, how do you feel when you're complimented by the one you love or you believe you love? Feels good, doesn't it? Same with her, same with him. It just depends. It doesn't matter. And this has been going on forever. Do we see divine perfection in ourselves? We can talk about it till we're blue in the face. The true miracle is that as you awaken, so too does the whole universe. Do you think we would complain if we loved ourselves? Would we complain? No. Would we have ego? No. Ego wouldn't be there. Would we desire? No, because we would know that the things that we want are already there. We don't have to go after them. Things come in and you say, well, I'm going to embrace that one because that's something that I would enjoy participating in. It doesn't matter if you are a conscious human being or not. The mind is constantly judging ourselves. It's like it is an incessant judgment upon ourselves. This is the mind. And since the mind has mastered most of us, not all of us, this is pretty atypical. The mind judges other people, right? This world, and anything that it can get a hold of. The mind was born with this master-like, judgeaholic power. It can judge anything in milliseconds. You may not have realized it this yet. Probably in the last 15 minutes, your mind has passed 10 judgments on yourself and someone else, or something in the world around you as either good or bad. The judgmental mind is perpetually busy working away at labeling this life. And this workaholic is a slippery gremlin to catch. We are so accustomed to the mind judging everything in this life, and we don't realize that it's completely wrinkled and about to fall off. Right? Judgment is the mind labeling something in life as either good or bad, but not both. It is a one-sided viewpoint of existence, which separates and divides. Interestingly, judgment manifests only when we are living up in the head and are disconnected from our heart. When we are living from the heart, the mind cannot judge. This occurs because the heart is free from duality, and the mind can only exist in duality, seeing black and white. The heart cannot get hooked, and whatever the mind believes is only good or only bad. When the heart is leading the way, we are free from the perpetual prison of the judging mind. If we all are to be free from judgment, we must choose to drop out of the head and into the heart. I don't mean temporarily. I mean always. And the mind will quiet, and the mind will become very still. And from this space, we can watch our mind closely and see just how slippery its judgmental habit is. We can see how it tends to avoid what it deems as scary. The mind often believes that if I get what I want, this is good, and then I will be happy. And if I get what I don't want, this is bad, and then I'll be unhappy. The more enlightened path, however, is understanding that in this great divine, supreme, all-intelligent universe, we are going to get it all. Every bit of it. We always, always, always get what we want and what we don't want. I mean, you can just look at it. Look at the life that you're experiencing, and look through that and see if that doesn't match. Because in this great, divine, supreme, all-intelligent universe, we are going to get it all, every bit. We always, always, always get what we want and what we don't want. You have a lot of money. All of a sudden, you've got just massive amounts of wealth. Now, what's the flip side of that? What are you going to do? How are you going to protect it? How are you going to be? How are you going to act? All that stuff comes flooding in. How many people that running in this great societal rat race, right now on this planet, being devoted to striving, achieving big, luxurious dreams, and becoming financially free? only to realize later that we missed out on so many beautiful sunsets while we were indoors chasing some fantasy. Life is always both. We get death, we get birth. These bodies. We always get both. And this polar opposite is inside everything that exists. The yin is contained within the yang, and the yang within the yin. The more often we practice seeing, feeling into, and accepting how we always get what we want and what we don't want in this life. The judgmental mind just drops on its own accord. We naturally start living every day in deep harmony and existence. We become vulnerable to existence again, and in this sweet humility, we can feel the great perfection of this life. We deeply accept that this existence is the judgment, is the expression of the highest intelligence, and that the good and bad judgment plan is the smartest plan available from God to create a spiritual awakening experience inside every being on this earth. So here's a challenge you might want to throw at yourself. See if you can find a single situation, person, or thing of this world that is only 100% positive and does not also have the tiniest hidden negative byproduct or an amazing sunset. Just wait and investigate it a bit longer, as both sides will eventually show. There is always another side to the coin, as the flower will one day wither away, and the amazing sunset colors always fade into the darkness. We always get both. The rose always comes with a few thorns, even if they're small. You can see how these things fit into perfect position or place. You can begin to understand as we connect the dots of going within and loving oneself. How many people do you believe do not? That's a toughie, isn't it? How many people right now, as we speak, that are ridiculing themselves? All kinds of things. They're too fat, they're too short, they're too ugly, they're too poor, they're too dumb, too smart. They're too much in their head. They aren't tall enough. They aren't big enough. They aren't strong enough. They aren't rich enough. They're too poor. They aren't happy enough. I mean, I don't think you'd ever run out of things that people are not happy with themselves. This is the judging of self coming down hard on yourself is very dangerous because it can imprint factors that you never get out of. Those people are like magnets, except they attract all the crap that they never wanted to attract and did. It's like these are the ones that walk around and they keep saying to people that they have a black cloud following them their whole life, that they got all these things that always go wrong. And then they say, well, that's life. And whenever you feel the judgment urge, here's a quick shift for you. Immediately shift to gratitude. What are you grateful for? You know, in that judgment, you're just getting ready to judge something. Maybe you, maybe something else, someone else. switch, what am I grateful for in this very moment? I guarantee you that'll shift you out of the judgment. You look at people, and we all do it. You know, most of us, it's so common that we just don't really think about it. Look at that woman. Look at how fat she is. What is she wearing that for? Oh, those are ugly colors. We just go on and on and on. And it doesn't feel good once you become aware. It doesn't feel good. And see, this is how we begin to transform. So that the next time we look at that woman, we say there's a God within that body. Pure divinity. Pure perfection. That which never changes. And it's quite interesting. Now, I'm not saying it's simple, or, well, it is kind of simple, but is it easy? After a while, it becomes easy. At first, it's a little tough. Because remember, we're pulled into gravitating in the lower frequencies and bad things. We focus on bad things as a civilization. Okay, and that's what we must be very careful about, is because, see, the bad things we don't care to focus upon. They're there. It's not like we're ignoring them. We know they're there. But we don't really care to focus on them. We focus on what we want, the type of life we want to live, the type of planet we want to live on. We focus on those things. And we leave that stuff in the darkness. Because when you focus on the bad, it becomes stronger. So it's your choice. You say to yourself, oh, you know, Jiminy, I'm focusing on all the crap out there. That's what my attention's on. And I'm not focusing anything on the life I want to live. Or the planet I want to live on. What kind of an earth do I want to live on? This heads it off. It actually vaporizes it. It doesn't have any grip. But many have a heavy burden. They carry a lot of that judgment. Doesn't mean they verbalize it. Some people never verbalize it. They just say it within. And then you may embrace judgment and say, why do I judge myself? Sit down on the couch with judgment and find out, why do I judge myself? Why do I say those things about myself? Or you might say, why don't I love myself? What are the reasons? What are the issues that I don't love myself? Where I end up reflecting it onto other people. See, guaranteed, here's a real clean sheet for you. If you can find fault with yourself, if you find fault with yourself, you do not love yourself. You don't. It's ego mind when you find fault with yourself. It's what it is. You ever notice, okay, for a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people who are really heavy set, right? Really fat. And they focus on it. Okay? Now in the beginning, they're heavy, but they're not really fat. But they focus on it. They worry about it, stress about it, fear about it. And it grows. And it grows and it grows. And they worry and stress and fear about it. Now all of a sudden, they're so huge that they start worrying about how long they're going to be in that body. They start worrying about their mortality. Or whatever you focus on. Let's look at ourselves. You focus on it. It is always going to be, it's not going away. It's going to be there. And it may grow. And we're not talking about ignoring things. We're just talking about facing them off. Face right off with them and say, okay, why are you bothering me? What is this? What's this all about? It all boils down to our own power, our own decision that we make every step of the way on this endless journey. That's what it's about. And it's facing off. It's not in an aggressive stance. You're facing off with all of these things that you know are there, but never took the time to face off with them. Get rid of the ball and chain around both ankles. Get rid of the heavy yoke on the shoulders. It is all about you. It's all about knowing how to love yourself. First, it's always about you first. Has to be. How can you possibly love anything else if you do not love yourself? Now you may think you do. Ego love. You may think you do. So in this quiet time with this meditation, and when you're focused on your breath and you're completely silent, and you're not moving, you're like a statue, ask yourself, do I love me? And listen for the answer. And if it comes out that you get the feeling of no, then ask, why is that? You'll be amazed at what happens. I'll join you in a meditation. I'll return to close the sound. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. It is your choice when you let go, not if you can. Making the decision to let go of your problem is 90% of the battle. Making a choice means releasing the past and move forward with life. Letting go is a natural part of life. It is the initiating key in the enlightenment process. It starts when you stop judging yourself and your life and begin to merge with the experience of the whole thing. Make that decision today, to let go of any indecisiveness and move forward with confidence that you can choose to take a baby step today towards letting go of your judgment on your life and enjoying the experience more often. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, and the following morning. We'll return here Tuesday, May 30, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and truly humble with yourself in a heart-minded way. And be in the highest of deepest eternal gratitude at all times, no matter what's going on around you.